Hey guys, welcome back to another cult movie review with me, Bo, here on the Film Scene Investigation channel. Thank you so much for checking out this review. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the 1999 drama, The War Zone. This was a movie that I recently stumbled upon, and yeah, given the talent that was involved, I am genuinely surprised that I'd never come across this movie before. The film never received a wide theatrical release, but then again, that's hardly surprising given the subject matter. It was hardly family-friendly material. Before we get into this review, if you haven't already, guys, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, The War Zone from 1999 was directed by the actor Tim Roth and was based on the novel by Alexandra Stewart. I thought it was intriguing to see Tim Roth behind the camera in the director's chair, since he's, primarily known as an actor. If any of you guys know about, Tim Roth and his filmography, he has worked with some amazing directors in his career. So suddenly seeing him as a director, that was intriguing, and I was definitely interested to see what he could deliver. When it comes to the actors in the film, it had a great cast that included Winston, Tilda Swinton, and a young Colin Farrell, who was making his feature film debut. Narrative-wise, The War Zone followed a family of 5 who had just left their busy lifestyles in London for a more quiet existence in rural Devon. The mum, played by Tilda Swinton, had just given birth to a newborn, and given the recent move, there was a lot going on in a short amount of time. The son, Tom, who was played by actor Freddie Cunliffe, was this awkward kid who had a hard time dealing with the recent move. He suddenly had no friends, and all the sudden changes seemed to really affect him. The kid was clearly struggling, adapting to his new surroundings, but what could he do? It's not like he had any choice in the matter. Things turned very ugly when Tom came back from a shopping trip with his mother to find his sister and his dad in the bathroom together, having sex. He saw them through the window, and naturally he was upset and confused about what he was actually seeing. In the moment, Tom decided to just keep quiet, not cause a scene, and just carry on as usual. He was already struggling with the house move, but to suddenly see his dad and his sister, that would mess up anyone psychologically. Eventually, Tom just couldn't keep it quiet anymore, and he confronted his sister Jessie, who was played by actress Laura Belmont. He was angry, he wanted an explanation, yet his sister just denied everything. She played it all down, but of course, it was quite clear she was lying. There was no denying it. Tom saw it for himself with his own eyes. Yet Jessie clammed up and, pretended like everything was fine. She obviously had been groomed from a young age, so in her eyes, there was nothing wrong with what was happening. Of course, Tom couldn't just forget about it. He knew what he saw, and something of that magnitude needed to be addressed, not brushed under the carpet. Tom would actually go on to find some private photos of Jessie and their dad together naked, which confirmed all of his suspicions. What he saw in the bathroom that day, that wasn't a one-off. No. This incestuous, twisted and sordid relationship between Jessie and her dad, that had been going on for many years, long before they ever got to Devon. Tom kept the photo and once again confronted his sister, yet she still carried on denying everything. Not taking no for an answer, Tom decided to keep a close eye on his sister and his father and eventually found their secret hiding spot. It was an old, disused wartime bunker atop a cliff, completely isolated, and this was the spot where the dad frequently took his daughter and sexually abused her. This wasn't a relationship. Jessie didn't want this, but she was old enough to know by that point that what she was doing with her father was wrong, yet she had no choice in the matter. Things finally culminated when the family's newborn baby was rushed to hospital suffering anal injuries. And I must say, when I saw all this unfold, it really freaked me out. It was just so disturbing. I never expected the baby to be one of the dad's victims. Utterly depraved. But, I have to hand it to the director, Tim Roth, in the way he handled the material. There wasn't this big revelation or announcement. No, instead it was revealed very subtly, so the audience could piece together what had actually happened. Once Tom saw what had happened to the baby, he knew who was responsible. He couldn't stand back any longer, so he decided to come clean and tell his mother just how dangerous the dad was, and implied that he was responsible for what happened to the baby, which of course panicked her. The dad would eventually get his comeuppance, and that was definitely satisfying to see. So I guess in some ways there was a, kind of a happy ending. Now, before we get into the performances, I did want to share my theory on the Tom character. While this may sound strange to some, I got the impression that Tom was secretly infatuated with his sister. You see, Tom was this really awkward kid who clearly was suffering from some sort of undiagnosed mental disorder. He had these very confused feelings for his sister that would definitely cross the line when it comes to a sibling relationship. I mean, even just from his mannerisms, Tom seemed more like just an overprotective brother. And what was interesting was that Jessie knew this. She knew that her brother had these dark thoughts. And what did she do? Well, she weaponized her sexuality and played mind games with him. Now, you would ask, why would Jessie do this? Well, ultimately, Jessie liked having control. You have to remember that Jessie was in this incestuous relationship with her father and had been for a very long time. She didn't want that, and yet she was trapped. She had no choice. Jessie had no say in the matter, but when it came to her brother, she could manipulate him. She could be the one in control, and she liked that. A good example of this would be the scene where Tom had the photo and confronted his sister. He stormed into her room and got on top of her, demanding an answer. And then eventually the bed covers came off and Jessie was laying there completely naked. It seemed that she was quite happy laying there, letting Tom, her own brother, see everything. And, when I saw that, that was the first time that I felt some sort of sexual tension between the two characters. Jessie should have remained covered up, and more importantly, she should have wanted to keep her modesty. But hey, this wasn't any normal family. Jessie continued to play these mind games on her brother because that's what she was conditioned to do. Jessie was only copying the controlling behaviour that she'd seen from her own father and then applying it to Tom. I mean, how about the scene where Jessie persuaded her friend Carol to sleep with Tom, her own brother, who was a virgin? It certainly was a strange request, but Carol, being this free-loving, dancer from London, she agreed and began seducing Tom. At first, Tom was a little shy, but he eventually started to enjoy the experience. But then Jessie suddenly came into the room and told Carol to stop. It was certainly strange because obviously Jessie was the one that set the whole thing up. But I guess the visual of seeing Tom, her own brother, becoming intimate with another woman clearly triggered some sort of emotional response. I mean, it's almost as if Jessie was jealous and didn't want to see Carol take Tom's virginity away. And I bring up jealousy, and you can apply the same to Tom, who increasingly became more jealous over the relationship between his dad and Jessie. Tom was psychologically scarred, psychologically damaged, and didn't have the mental capacity to fully comprehend what was actually going on between his sister and his father. He stupidly aimed his anger at the wrong person. He aimed it at the victim, Jessie. I mean, at one point in the film, we saw Tom grab the family camcorder and go up to the bunker to film the sexual abuse that was going on. Tom wanted some hard evidence so nobody could dispute his claims. But later on, we saw Tom throw away the tape. He was going to expose everyone. He was going to come clean, and everybody was going to know how sick and depraved his dad was. But then he had this change of heart and decided to carry on and keep quiet. You see, this is the key thing to remember here. Tom, of course, wanted to stop the disgusting behaviour and wanted to show just how much of a monster his dad was. But on top of that, he also wanted to hurt Jessie simply because he couldn't be with her. By destroying that tape, by throwing away that evidence that he had filmed, he was allowing Jessie's suffering to continue, and he knew that. It really was a love-hate relationship between Tom and Jessie, and many times their relationship even got physical, with them hitting each other and getting into fights. For me, seeing all of that unfold, it made me think that this constant physicality that they had between one another was a way for them both to release some of the sexual tension that they had for each other. Now, when it comes to the performances, I want to give credit to the actress Lara Belmont, who played Jessie. She really was outstanding in this movie. This was actually Belmont's debut movie. This was her first appearance. So, when you think about it, that's actually quite remarkable. I mean, let's face it, the Jessie character, it carries so much weight, so much baggage that any actor stepping into that role, it would be a challenge for them to undertake. The fact that Belmont came in and just nailed the performance, I was really, really impressed. In my eyes, she was the best part of the film, and I'm genuinely surprised that she never went on to have a big Hollywood career, because in The War Zone, she showed so much potential. Ray Winston gave a compelling performance as the perverted father who ultimately tore his family apart. The character started off very reserved and inconspicuous, but eventually his true monstrous ways came to the surface. I can't say that I was a big fan of the character. In fact, I hated him. But after seeing the ending and seeing what happened to the baby, even I wanted to, get some revenge on the guy. The dad was a real detestable scumbag. But, when it comes to my reaction, that was all down to the powerful performance that Ray Winston gave. So, yeah, just a brilliant job from him. Colin Farrell was also very good in his limited role, playing Jesse's love interest, Nick. Once Farrell was introduced, I just assumed that his character would be heavily involved with the story, but that wasn't the case. He showed up and quickly vanished. It definitely was a shame because obviously Colin Farrell, we all know he's a very talented actor, but unfortunately this was a very early role for him, and yeah, obviously he was just trying to get some credits to his name, so unfortunately we didn't see any real performance from him. One aspect of the film that I really, really liked was the cinematography by Seamus McGarvey. He depicted the rural Devon landscape with these wonderful wide shots of the windy coastline and the overcast skies. Those visuals really created this deep sense of isolation, which obviously mirrored the character's emotional state. It was strange because, there were so many shots of these big, wide open spaces, yet somehow it all felt very claustrophobic, as if only the family themselves existed. McGarvey also used a very muted colour palette, which did fall in line with the story's disgusting subject matter. It was constantly wet, windy and grey, with the only colour really coming from the green fields that we saw. I mean, I've actually been to Devon and the weather wasn't too bad, so maybe they just went, in the off-season. But either way, some brilliant cinematography from McGarvey. And so, dislikes for The War Zone from 1999. My biggest dislike for the film would have to be the score by composer Simon Boswell. Now, first and foremost, Boswell is a very talented composer, and he's provided several scores for some great films, including The Crying Game. But when it comes to The War Zone, I just really wasn't that impressed. Now, there was nothing outright wrong with the score. It was perfectly fine. I just found it at times very whimsical, and I don't think it suited the story's dark nature. I mean, maybe that was the filmmaker's intention, to have such a contrast in styles when it came to the visuals and the score, but I just felt it was too overproduced and just didn't click. And to be honest, with the story and the performances, I actually don't think you even needed a score. I've seen many messed up movies over the last couple of years, and a lot of the time the score is basically non-existent. And for me, I think that is what the kind of route that Tim Roth should have gone down. And so, ratings for The War Zone from 1999. I'm going to be rating this movie a strong 6 out of 10. I thought The War Zone was a tremendous drama from Tim Roth that showcased this dysfunctional family whose lives basically were torn apart by a depraved, incestuous relationship. From Ray Winston to Tilda Swinton to Laura Belmont. I mean, there were some very strong performances in this film, and they all deserve high praise. When it comes to the pacing of the film, yes, it was slow, but that was deliberate to allow the tension between the characters to build naturally. For me, some of the shots did linger on a bit too long, and, well, if I was in the editing room, I probably would have removed at least about 10 minutes of this. But either way, it was still a great drama. If you've seen The War Zone, then please let me know your thoughts and memories in the comment section below. For those who haven't, this is a strong recommendation from me. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's not for everyone. But if you're in the mood for a compelling British drama, then give it a go. And well, that's all from me today, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this review of The War Zone from 1999. I'll be back next week with another cult movie review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also want to say a big thank you to all my current and new subscribers. Really appreciate you guys' support. And of course, take care.